there's a question, not just in Argentina, but in many jurisdictions, including the US, in terms of how do you persuade business leaders, directors, members of senior management, that investing in compliance really has a value add to the company. And sometimes what we have seen is situations where companies hire a very junior compliance person, does not provide that person with resources or seniority within the company, but just bring in somebody and say, here you are, you're the compliance officer, but gives very little effort or focus on the importance of compliance. So I'm curious to get your perspectives. How do you bridge those two situations where on the one hand, the board or the senior management team recognizes that there's an economic incentive for the company to have compliance. On the other hand, there's a disconnect because what they're doing is they're just hiring somebody very junior to be able to say to potential investors, ah, yes, we have a compliance department. How do we bridge those two? How do we bring those two things together in a way that makes compliance be more substantial at the end of the day?
Right. Well,
there is no magic formula.
That's
no what I would say from.
It's hard. It's hard. I think that there's a cultural issue here that it is very important. That if you see, you know, the companies in Argentina, we have a few publicly held companies, and then most of them are family-owned businesses. But out of the public companies also, like the control of this company is still in the hands of the, you know, major founding shareholders. So the cultural issue is that everybody thinks that this, you know, limited group of persons is the only one who knows the business. Mm. This in the public company. So imagine how can this be in the family-owned businesses. So I guess that if you take that into consideration when this board, you know, which at the end of the day, I'm generalizing, but, you know, all of the directors are appointed by the major shareholder. This, you know, group of people tend to think that they are the only ones who know their businesses, who know the business. And well, family-owned businesses is even more exacerbated. So it is, I think, and the cultural issue is there. I think that there's a tension between, you know, trying to explain the business, the risk of the businesses, a roadmap to this business to someone who is perceived as a stranger and who will never understand the business. As if, you know, we were trying, as if they were trying to hide something, which they're not. You know, but I think this is this cultural issue not to let someone new from compliance, and that is also, I will not say that there are not excellent compliance officers in Argentina, because they are, but maybe because we don't have the practice, there is this perception that there is no compliance officer right for my business.
I think that one of the approaches is to build trust, to show that they are already investing in something that they need to make the most of it. I mean, if you have a compliance program in place, try to make it work. I mean, if not, you are just wasting money and yeah, you are just window dressing, and that is worse than not having a realistic compliance program in place. So it's a work in progress. There is no magic formula. You need to be prepared to advocate for compliance before different board members that perhaps come from a different cultural mindset that makes them see this as wasted effort or focus in the company. But it can be done. We do it.